Hello and welcome back. And who cares about the intro? Kyle, the Buccaneers just won the Super Bowl.
That they did. Yeah. I mean, what a win. So how you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling fantastic. I had a live stream. I was very, very excited. I was going to do something live stream and I decided to wait to the podcast. Kyle, I figured I'll wait to the podcast. I'm going to pop the champagne here for the Buccaneers Super Bowl win. So if I can do that, let me just. We're okay. We're okay. Dangerously close to a light. Should have been better at that. Got the champagne. Very, very pumped up. This was awesome, and the game was so not close, and it was still so stressful. Kyle, how did you live through Super Bowl 49 and 51? Incredible.
Yeah, I mean these games are intense, and especially a game like this where oh my gosh, oh man,
Just completely
party
spit
foul.
up. I got napkins.
There we go. So, I mean, these Super Bowls are stressful. Even a game like this, where it's like Tampa kind of jumps on them early. They have the lead going into the half, and it's like even the second half. As someone who's just out there, kind of supporting Brady and Gronk, I'm like, well, it's not over yet because Mahomes is on the other side of the ball. I'm sitting there in like the fourth quarter. It's like 31-9, and I'm like, well, it's not over yet, and these games just get you as stressful as possible.
It's incredible. Yeah, it really is. Well, it's also amazing too how like all the other games, the first three games were all close. They were all incredibly competitive. The one that had the biggest differential was the Saints game, but the Saints were up like in the middle of the third quarter and they had the ball and they were driving before the Winfield fumble. And in this one, it was just a complete blowout. I don't even know where to start with this one, to be honest. Let me know. Where do you think we should start?
I mean, this was just impressive. I was really impressed with the way Tampa came out. We'll start with the defense. Let's go with there. That defensive line was incredible. Patrick Mahomes was pressured the most times in Super Bowl history. Shaq Barrett had 8 pressures in the game. He was an absolute menace. And, I mean, this is exactly what we said when we were talking about who would win this game, in that when have you ever seen a team have such a distinct advantage on both sides of the line of scrimmage and be underdogs? Tampa Bay had such a competitive advantage on both sides of the ball, and Kansas City didn't help themselves with the game plan. But they had such a huge advantage and dominated that part of the game. Mahomes was running for his life. It was just so impressive from that defensive line.
Yes, I agree. I think that it's word for word, incredible. I think that I agree. Let's start with the Bucs. Just the Bucs defense against the Chiefs offense, because holding Mahomes to 9 points, no touchdowns, truly incredible. And like you said, the pressure was constant, and we kind of figured that going in though, right? Good Bucs pass rush against the backup tackles. We figured this would be a good advantage for Tampa Bay. I think one of the real issues, one of the things we probably should talk about is this Chiefs sort of. I don't really know what they were doing a lot, where it seemed like they were still trying to get these deep shots down the field. And there wasn't a lot of jet sweeps. There wasn't like wide receiver screen passes too much. They had a little bit of success running the ball, although that was largely on just a couple of big plays. But it seemed like Tampa Bay's mindset was, we're going to force you to have these long, methodical drives. You're going to have to get 5 to 7 yards every play. And Kansas City was still going for the home run ball, and that just wasn't going to work with a bad offensive line and two safeties deep on almost every play.
Yeah, that's the thing. They should have expected 2 safeties in this game. 2 safeties playing deep virtually the entire game. Because in that second half, when they started to slow down Kansas City a little bit, a lot of it involved playing 2 safeties deep. They said they got caught. They got burnt a few times. Let's change it up and make sure we're not getting killed on those plays when they played back in week 12. They come out immediately, and it's basically they're running 2 safeties deep the entire game. And they're playing way back. Like, there's no chance to throw a ball deep on them. There's plays where they're 20 yards downfield before the snap, it seemed like almost. There was no chance that they were taking those shots downfield on them. And the other thing, as you mentioned it here, the lack of screen passes. One of the things that I think you need to do when you have a bad offensive line against a good defensive line who's coming after you is either run the ball well, which they did at points, I thought, in this game, or use the screen passing game. They needed to use more screens, I felt like, in this game, which they didn't really take advantage of, which just kind of let Barrett kind of pin his ears back and say, let's go. And then I had this from Next Gen Stats, too, talking about KC. They use 5-man protection 92% of dropbacks.
Insane.
92% of the dropbacks was 5-man protection with that bad offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
It just made no sense. I know it's not really their thing to put a lot of blocking tight ends in there, but you got to put somebody there. You need some sort of help so that Mahomes isn't just going 4-on-5 here and hoping for the best. None of it made any sense to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it might not be your thing, but if in a game like this, it has to become your thing. You have to figure out a way to, you have to make it work. And yeah, I agree. It was just this was not a great day for the Kansas City Chiefs coaching staff. We can circle back to the offense later, but I want to talk about while we're on the subject of the Tampa Bay running out the clock in the first half, which was a mistake, and Andy Reid not letting them make that mistake, calling multiple timeouts, giving Tampa Bay an opportunity. Tampa Bay ends up scoring a touchdown on that drive, and they could have had an 8-point game at the half, and that really, was the beginning and the end. And you saw Matthew was furious at the end, and I think part of it was because he didn't like one of the penalties, but another part is just it's just such a devastating blow at that point.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of things with that too. The first part was I understood the timeout on first down because it was still 2nd and 10 at that point. So I get the call there after the running play to say, hey, let's give ourselves one more shot here. The thing I didn't like was on 2nd down, they got 8 yards. It was 3rd and short on that point, and you're calling a timeout and giving them a chance to set up the play. And it'd be one thing if your defense is dominating the whole game. Tampa Bay had really started getting some momentum those last 2 drives before that and getting down the field. They had one drive where they obviously scored, and then they had the other drive that got stopped at the 1-yard line. So I didn't understand the idea of that 2nd down, calling that timeout there and giving them a chance to set up a play and then giving them more time, obviously. That I agree with you. That made no sense to me given the circumstance.
Yeah, really, really good. And then, there's this, it's they're at the 1-yard line. Tampa Bay has, 10 seconds left, no timeouts. And Tampa Bay comes in a heavy set. They have an extra offensive lineman and 2 tight ends, and they're going to run play action. And for whatever reason, Kansas City bites on this play action. Tampa Bay's not going to, pull all that extra protection and run the football with 10 seconds left. In this situation, you're going to throw the ball and at least give yourself one more play to try and go for it or kick a field goal.
Yeah, and this was the biggest problem in the game. This was Kansas City's worst game of the year, and it's not even close. And it had, you give credit to Tampa Bay's defense, but you also have to, give yourself some criticism here. They were sloppy throughout the game. It was either, there was some questionable calls, but there was also some bad penalties there. There were some dumb penalties they're taking, like lining up on offside on a field goal attempt. Bad penalties there. There's, things like biting on play action with 10 seconds left, calling timeouts when you weren't, when you probably shouldn't have, not putting in extra blockers on the offensive line. There's just a lot of things that I didn't like what they did given the circumstances, and it was definitely their worst game of the year.
I brought something up on a previous podcast about how weirdly the team that has the worst record going into the Super Bowl, they've won 9 out of the 10 of the last 10 Super Bowls, the team that has the worst record going in. And I was like, that seems weird. It's probably just one of those random things, but could there be a reason for it? And maybe that reason would be not being battle tested. It kind of felt like Kansas City wasn't battle tested here, and they never had to make these extreme adjustments because they were always leading at the half. This was a new situation for them.
Yeah. I mean, they've kind of, I think one of the things that we talked about is they've kind of coasted all year. Is part of that because they're not making a lot of halftime adjustments and, kind of just falling flat a lot of the games in the second half because they're up so much? I mean, it's possible. I think a lot of that with that record is because I think what we start seeing a lot of teams, especially wild card teams, when they make the Super Bowl, it tends to them playing their best football at the right time. And you could definitely say that about Tampa Bay. They were playing their best football basically from week 14 on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy how after the bye, they didn't lose. 8 straight wins. And really, I mean, and even if you want to go a little bit further, the first game after the bye was Atlanta. They fell down, 17-0 at the half and then came back and won. From that point on, it was all go. Let's talk about this Bucs defense for a second. I mean, God. incredible. This is the defense that, I believe in a preseason, I gave them the second best defensive grade. And at times that looked really stupid. I feel pretty good about that right now.
Yeah. I mean, they were incredible in this game. The speed, the tenaciousness, like the ability of this defense. We talked about this players in the secondary having a bit of an attitude, and they showed it in this one. You got Antoine Winfield throwing out the peace sign right in front of Tyreek Hill. I loved it. Yeah. You have if Brady didn't win Super Bowl MVP, you're basically cutting that Super Bowl MVP into thirds, and it's going to Shaq Barrett, Levante David, and Devin White for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, those three were so good. Shaq Barrett's in the backfield virtually every play. He had a 19% pressure rate on 41 QB rushes, which is just insane. You have Levante David blanketing Travis Kelce in a lot of man-to-man sets when they really need him to get stops. Kelce ended up getting his, but I thought when they really needed stops, David was on the coverage, just incredible. You have Devin White just all over the place. I'm so jealous you get to be a fan of this guy for the next 10 years. I've been saying all year, Devin White is so good at football. I'm so jealous you get to watch this guy as a fan for the next 10 years because he is going to be an all-time linebacker. He's absolutely nuts with the speed he has on the field to be able to do everything. He's just around the ball every play.
Yeah. Also, I realized I forgot to put the banner up. Everyone was probably confused as to what game we were talking about.
So the Bulls and Knicks.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No. I mean, the Bucks kind of have the Green Bay Packers version, but instead of quarterbacks with linebackers, with Levante David for a decade and now getting Devin White. And I mean, as a Buccaneers fan, it's so hard to not just feel so happy for a guy like Levante David, who's playing in, I believe it's his 9th or 10th season, had never made the playoffs before, comes in the Super Bowl, and the Travis Kelce stat line, one of the most all-time misleading stat lines, 133 yards and 10 receptions. But that was a lot of, the fourth quarter prevent defense getting some yards that way. He was not a big factor. I mean, he made some plays early on. I'm not trying to say he was one of the players who was playing decently well. But yeah, I mean, in man coverage, David was able to really handle him.
Yeah. No, he did a terrific job. I thought, especially, I think the big part was third downs because Kelce's their big third down guy in a lot of situations. And I mean, it seemed like whenever they went to Kelce on those third down situations, especially in the first half, David was there to make the play. I mean, did you ever think this Kansas City offense was going 3 of 13 on third downs? Like, it's just absolutely insane what they did. They did all this. I have a couple more stats here I actually wanted to show. Just talking a little bit about the game from the next gen stats, the Buccaneers defensive line and two safety shell 87% of the plays. You saw exactly what their game plan was. Mahomes throwing deep, 0 of 5 for 0 yards and an interception.
Incredible.
The Bucs blitzed on 9.6% of dropbacks, the lowest rate Bulls led defense over the last 5 seasons. So in 5 years, Bulls has not blitzed this much basically ever. And it was the perfect game plan because he knew he could win with 4 guys, and these guys did terrific in coverage too. Like, I think we both said when we picked the Buccaneers to win this game, like, hey, I like kind of how this defense matched up, especially with the injuries. I didn't expect this to happen.
No, I think we both. Yeah, I mean, I believe you gave Kansas City 17 points, and I was like, okay, Kyle, getting a bit dramatic here. There's only 17 points, but I think we both thought that there was an opportunity something like this could happen. But I just think we both also felt like Kansas City, they were going to just get these methodical drives and score points that way. Like, that's what we both thought. We figured this defense would do well, but what did we say all year? The way to beat Kansas City is to, score 40. Apparently they had to score 10 in this one.
Yeah, no kidding. It was, it was a really good performance. You give them all the credit in the world. And, with the rumors circulating that Todd Bowles might be the coach next year, the head coach, you have to feel really good about this performance from that defense and this run through the playoffs and beating Mahomes and Rodgers, basically the top 2 MVP guys.
I think you can make an argument that if coaches were eligible for MVP, Todd Bowles should get the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, he was that good.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a perfect game plan, and I thought it was I really thought it was a good thing that he looked at himself and said, how can I change my game plan? Because this is something, when we go back through the Bucs season, after that second loss to the Saints, I was pretty harsh on Todd Bowles in that one. At that second loss to the Saints, I said, look, I get what he tries to do. It works a lot of times against bad quarterbacks and average quarterbacks because he's throwing so many bodies at them and defending the deep ball. But I'm like, when it's a certain quarterback and certain game plans, you got to adjust. You got to adjust to what the other team does. He adjusted so well in this game and just did an incredible job with this defense. And the 2 weeks to prepare, they did a really good job. And, that's another one where Kansas City had 2 weeks to prepare and didn't change anything. They saw this offensive line for 2 weeks and thought, okay, we're fine. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't get it either. Someone asked me, "Where's the cigar?" Clicked the wrong comment. Where's the cigar? I was going to get a cigar, but I figured I think it might set off the smoke alarm, so I'm not gonna no cigar here, and I couldn't get it outside, so we're not doing that. But yeah, I mean, no, this was I forget what you were saying. I got distracted by cigar talk.
Oh, I was just talking about how it just seemed like the game plans that Tampa Bay put together in the 2 weeks were huge. And Kansas City had 2 weeks, and it seemed like they didn't change much of anything after watching this offensive line in practice for 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, I remember what I was going to say now. It did feel like every time I watched tape from Tampa Bay, it felt like, okay, if they just do this, they could be set. They just do this one thing, against the Saints. It's like, okay, if they just play primarily man coverage, don't get cover one man, don't get worried about getting beat deep, they'll be okay. And it seemed like there were so many of those moments. And every time I said that in this postseason run, they did exactly that. I mean, I guess except for Washington, where, really, the Taylor Heineke did he had a better job against this Bucs defense than debatably any of them. He had Washington put up 23 points, Green Bay 26.
Heineke for Mahomes, straight up. Who says that?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, here. So I guess we'll talk about Mahomes here. I don't give him a ton of He made some bad throws. He forced some throws that were kind of like heaves, but at the same time, he kind of had to make heaves. He had some ridiculous incompletions too. He had the one where he was basically horizontal to the ground and it hits Darrell Williams in the face mask.
Right.
But I mean, I don't even think this loss wasn't even about Mahomes or about Brady. I think this was a huge credit to basically every non-quarterback in the NFL. I think that we try to simplify this game almost too much sometimes because we're too much like, oh, it's Mahomes against Brady. The reason why I picked Tampa Bay, and one of the things that we talked about is every competitive advantage in this game felt like it was in Tampa Bay's favor, besides 25-year-old Mahomes going against 43-year-old Brady. We felt like that was distinctly in Kansas City's favor. But if you look at the skill guys against the secondary of Kansas City, you felt like the skill guys for Tampa Bay were better. You felt like the offensive line, defensive lines for Tampa Bay were better. The linebackers for Tampa Bay were better against the running game. You looked at all of these competitive advantages. The game was at home. Kansas City wasn't able to fly until Friday. That's an advantage for Tampa Bay again. Kansas City has multiple injuries across their offensive line. Huge advantage for Tampa Bay. Kansas City has multiple guys on COVID because of a barber. That's an advantage for Tampa Bay. One of their coaches isn't coming because of a whole ordeal, which, we don't have to get into, obviously. That's an advantage
Right.
for Tampa Bay. It's just like everything's going in Tampa Bay's favor. And, I think FanDuel said at one point 67% of the voters were going for Kansas City. I think a bunch of people just shrugged and said, okay, well, they have Mahomes. I don't care. Clearly, having more than a quarterback matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I do think it's fair to say, too, I don't think we should not blame Mahomes for this. Mahomes wasn't great in this one, too, I thought. I get that all the external factors, but he had opportunities that he messed up as well. You can't put it all on Mahomes. You can't even put, more than 20% on Mahomes. But if we want to talk about quarterbacks, I think it's fair to say, he missed some throws. He did make some desperation throws that he probably wouldn't have had to make given the situation. So that's fair. And the pressure was constant, but he missed some throws. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did. And were you surprised in the second half they didn't go more quick passing?
Yeah, stunned. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me why they, and again, just it almost felt like, Andy Reid was like I'm not gonna do what you want me to do. But it's like if I'm saying hey Kyle, here's a cookie, you're not gonna say oh, that's what you want me to do is eat the cookie. You're gonna say okay, yeah, sure, I'll have a cookie. That sometimes just eat the cookie.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's exactly what it was. I feel like they needed 2 or 3 screens, and it's just listen, these guys are coming at you. Get the ball out quicker. And I thought they did it at points throughout drives, but it's like they got in the red zone, and then all of a sudden you see Mahomes running back 20 yards. It's like, what are you doing? What is the point of this? Why are you trying to do this now when you got all the way down to the red zone by getting the ball out quicker than that?
Yes, we have a $20 super chat. We appreciate that, Josh. Imagine the AFC 10 years ago with Peyton Manning, Brady, prime big men, Andrew Luck. Mahomes is no Joe Flacco who beat them all. Agreed. Joe Flacco. And he says Mahomes is overrated. I don't know about that. It was just not a great day, but it is what it is. But yeah, basically Joe Flacco is the GOAT, as we all knew.
I mean, that was a given. Joe Flacco would be both of these guys with no hands. I mean, right. Joe Flacco, it's that was the best part about it was that pass interference to Evans. I saw a tweet that said that was in the Joe Flacco school of pass interference. It was incredible. Just the loft on that ball. I guess we should transition here to the Bucs offense, which had a quiet second half, but I thought in the first half did really well.
Yeah, I mean, still 10 points in the third quarter, none in the fourth. But even in these drives that weren't scoring points, they were still getting like 6 minutes off the clock and really helping kill the clock. Let's start with your guy. How about Rob Gronkowski? Super Bowl Rob Gronkowski doing it again.
I feel really proud of this because I was saying this for basically all week. I said this on 2 podcasts that Rob Gronkowski is going to find a way to have a huge game in this. And right off the bat with the first touchdown and the second touchdown where he got so much separation, just an incredible game from him. Like I said, he was just going to be able to pull it out, and I thought it was just really good game from him. It was a really smart game plan. It seemed like they forgot Rob Gronkowski was on the field a lot of the times. That one third down play where Matthew basically leaves him and he gets a free 25 yards out of it. It's just like, it's what he does. He shows up for these games and he torches the Chiefs. It's what he does.
It blows my mind, to be honest, where we talked about, one of the things we talked about heading in was like, okay, tight ends, that's going to be a key factor. So we assumed that Kansas City is going to have an answer for that, and they just didn't. And there were so many of these moments. And that play you talked about with the big one, that was a play action. I think play action also, week 12 was kind of the biggest thing. Bucs fans were like, why aren't we running more play action? No one said that after this game. Play action was a key part of this victory.
Yeah, and Brady in this game, another NFL Next Gen stat I have. Perfect timing for that. Brady on play action.
Did Next Gen pay you to plug their show constantly? Or
no, but I got to get some of these in, so I sound smart for a change. 43% of dropbacks were off of play action. Brady was 10 of 13, 135 yards, and all 3 touchdowns were off play action. And not to mention, Brady's average throw time in this game was 2.27 seconds, his fastest since week 17 of 2016. So not only is he running play action, he's getting the ball out quickly when he needs to. I just thought it was a terrific game plan. And, as we talk about the way these two teams game plan in this game, I thought the Buccaneers did a really good job of saying, how can we exploit a lot of what this team does? And as we talked about in the preview show, this is going to be a lot of tight end, slot receivers, and running backs in the passing game. And if you look at the leading receivers for Tampa Bay, it's, Evans had the big catch, but it was Rob Gronkowski, 6 catches, 67 yards. Leonard Fournette, 4 catches, 46 yards. Cameron Braid had 3 catches for 26 yards, and Antonio Brown had 5 catches. Godwin and Evans combined for 3 catches for 40 yards. So they knew exactly what they wanted to do in this one. And I think the Chiefs on the other side just thought that, these are our strengths. Our strengths are our outside cornerbacks, and our strengths are our deep passing game. Let's just double down that these are going to work and it's going to be fine. Yeah,
no, I mean, Evans also he drew a couple pass interference penalties, but yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And again, talking about these things, that's like, I want to give Tampa Bay credit. Obviously, I'm a Bucs fan. I want to just pretend like, no, we were just that much better. It's not the case, really. I think, there's a play where it was a third down and like 4, I think. And Kansas City goes back to his zone coverage. I believe it was cover 3. And Fournette's just wide open over the middle of the field. It's like, do you guys not know that Brady likes to throw to halfbacks? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I didn't understand it. It seemed like Fournette could have had about 27 catches in this game, not 4. I mean, it seemed like anytime he just wanted to leak out for a play. And listen, that's kind of been Kansas City's MO. They're going to bring it on just about every down. And they brought it a lot of plays, but I just thought another part of this game that we thought was a huge advantage, Tampa Bay's offensive line was terrific in this one. They got a few times in on Brady, but overall, they read every pressure and did a terrific job.
I like this comment. If this is live, shout out this comment and then follows it up because this isn't live. You nailed us, Tyler. You got us.
Yeah, not live. So, go ahead.
No. Also, really, what happened was early on there was this opening drive, and the first couple drives. First, starting off with this, they didn't throw the ball. They didn't run the ball. They threw the ball on first down, which was a shock to us all. Scotty Miller ends up running the ball and losing like 3 yards in like this weird flip play. That's the only time Scotty Miller ever got the ball. And like Tampa Bay got off to this slow start. And it was looking like, oh man, is this going to be the same thing from last year? And it was that first touchdown drive that really made me feel like great. Where just you saw Kansas City try like 6 different things and none of them worked. Tampa Bay had an answer for everything. And that's kind of when I felt like, okay, this could actually go really well for us, at least offensively. I didn't expect the defense to continue to play that well, but that first drive was huge.
Yeah, and it was basically, Tampa Bay basically just threw up the middle finger to the analytic crew, basically the entire postseason, as we're all clamoring for them to throw more and more on first down, which I thought they mixed in a little bit here. But it's like, listen, I think there's still something to setting the tone with the running game. And they did it for 3 straight weeks, and it's paid off 3 straight weeks by, eventually this team looked gassed in the second half trying to defend the run at times, and they were able to churn out long drives basically by just strictly running the ball. They had one drive towards the end with 5.5 minutes, and they had another one they got the field goal that was off a turnover, but it was still 3.5 minutes off the clock in 8 plays. So, they just did a terrific job of setting the tone on the ground and getting yards that way, which I thought was big. But yeah, I just thought overall this offense was methodical, but just impressive with the way they were able to do pretty much whatever they wanted and really just set the tone at the line of scrimmage and use that to their advantage.
Exactly. And that running, like you said, about that drive late in the game where they just ran the ball, it's like Kansas City had no safeties deep. They were trying to stop the run, doing whatever they could, and they still couldn't do it. It was unbelievable. That drive was maybe the most impressive. I think it ended with like, a 5-yard, you're killing like 6 minutes of clock and then punting. But just the fact that Kansas City knows what's coming and still couldn't stop it. This was tough for the Chiefs defense.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then, they were able to get it in the first half though, because Brady was so good in the first half. In the second half, because Brady was so good in the first half, because he was 16 of 20, 140 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. He threw 9 passes in the second half. 9. It was just like they felt so comfortable with where they were at. It was just so impressive how they were able to do that. And Brady was so impressive in the first half, honestly. That was, I guess we should get to the Super Bowl MVP now. He was just so good in this one in the first half, I felt like.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought that he deserved the MVP. It's one of those where it's not like Brady was like all-time great performance, which is usually what you hope for when you're giving out the Super Bowl MVP, is like someone who was just like perfect. Like of course they get the MVP. Wasn't quite that level, but he was really good. And I think the numbers a bit misleading on his side. Only people will say, oh, only 201 yards, but a lot of that was because for a large part of the game, he basically had to play 3 quarters. If this was a regular season game, he would have gotten taken out in the 4th quarter. It was that crazy.
Yeah. He didn't make mistakes, which is one of the things we talked about earlier in the week as well. Excuse me. I just one of the things that we talked about was that, Brady's numbers aren't going to necessarily blow you away in this one, but he's not going to shoot himself in the foot. He's not going to make bad plays. He's not going to take bad penalties. He's just going to pick you apart and pick his spots to really throw the ball downfield, which is essentially what he did. And when he threw the ball downfield, he's either getting a flag or he got he got the touchdown pass to Gronk.
Yeah, for sure. And I was so mad when I thought that was so close to offensive lineman touchdown to Joe Hag. So close.
He was really close in that one. But honestly, out of his hands.
But honestly, that was actually I thought that was going to be a turning point, because it was 7-3. The Bucks don't get they end up they don't get the touchdown. They go for it on 4th, don't get it. Kansas City, they get a first down immediately to like the 15-yard line, and I'm thinking, here we go. It reminded me of the Bills-Colts game a bit, where the Colts went for it on fourth down, didn't get it, and the Colts drove. The Colts went for it on fourth down, didn't get it, and the Bills drove like 98 yards for a touchdown. And it started to think like, oh man, is this going to happen? And then they don't get the first down. There's a punt penalty called back and a shank punt. I thought that shank of a punt was a huge momentum shift as well.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it's once again just one of the little things that Kansas City didn't do very well in this game. Amongst the penalties and mistakes with lining up offside and that kind of stuff, you can't have that sort of situation that deep in your zone. You can't miss a punt. You can't first drop the punt and then have the holding penalty off of that where you drop the first punt, and then you can't shank the next punt. And this was one of the things that we thought maybe special teams was actually the advantage in Kansas City's favor because they have such electric returners, and, Tampa Bay's return coverage had been suspect at points throughout the season. You thought maybe they have an advantage here, and Townsend really, literally dropped the ball in that one.
Yeah, there you go. Both kickers were great.
Yeah, I mean, Bucker, that was pretty rare, it seemed like, right? I've never seen kickers so automatic. Suckup was just on the money. That 52-yarder just felt huge.
Mm-hmm. Well, it felt especially huge for me because I got the score confused and I thought it was a 16-point game instead of a 19-point game. And so I thought that would made it a 3-score game, but actually I'm just an idiot.
Oh. Well, it's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. Bucker made a 52-yarder and a 49-yarder. Who cares about those? But he also made a 34-yarder.
Yeah, I know. He hit one from in close. It was a miracle. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, all the kickers were good in this one. Both the kickers were good in this one. That was a big thing, and they didn't shoot themselves in the foot that way. But Tampa Bay had the advantage everywhere else.
Yeah, I guess we should talk about the refs for a second. Seems like the refs, I do believe that maybe a ticky-tack penalty here and there. Usually they say the difference for that is roughly about 22 points. So I think it's reasonable to complain about
it. Roughly 22 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, the one that I thought was questionable was the holding call on the third down that was picked by Matthew. And obviously that's a huge part of the point in the game to have that happen to you. But that was really, that was the one that I felt like was questionable. I didn't think that one was, but at that point, at the same time, when we're talking about these other penalties, they're clearly showing that they're going to call this pretty tight on the outside. They didn't want these corners to be too physical. And I thought somewhat surprisingly, based on the, the reputations of Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting, they played pretty off a lot of the game. They weren't playing, they weren't getting those dumb penalties on their side where Kansas City didn't adjust to the referees at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, and part of that was just I think the Bucs were playing a lot more zone and the Chiefs are playing a lot more man, which I think helped. I do agree that I didn't think the Matthew penalty should have been called, but at the same time, here's what I always get confused about with the way people view these things. The ball gets tipped up in the air by Fournette and ends up going right to Matthew. It's a lucky play that Matthew got the interception. Then the Chiefs get unlucky with a penalty called against them. So instead of us saying, okay, the luck canceled out, whatever, we're all freaking out about the refs. I don't understand why we accept luck as a part of the game, unless when it happens when a ref makes a bad call, then it's an outrage.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because of the human aspect to that. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that was the only one I still felt like was a questionable call. Like the pass interference that was down the field to Evans, it's a little unfortunate for the corner, but it did look like his hand caught the shoe. So, and it's not like he's tangling with the feet of the wide receiver. He tripped on his own, and then his hand hits the shoe of Evans, and Evans, slows down and goes down. You can debate if it was catchable, but I think one of the things that we've talked about all year is that uncatchable balls doesn't really seem to be much of a thing anymore. Unless the ball's way out of bounds to the sideline, it seems like they kind of just view everything as catchable. They've been doing it a lot all season. And then the Matthew one in the end zone, I mean, it was, was it soft? Sure, but he also impedes his progress into the back of the end zone too. So that's another one that I thought was a pretty clean call.
Yeah, I hear. And you know me, I hate the blame the ref mindset. Right. I think that you gotta find a way to win. And again, I don't really think that mattered much. I think that again, I get it in the heat of the moment. If it happened to me, I would be annoyed at it too. But it is what it is. Luck's a part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, Kansas City didn't help itself. It's one thing if this is like a one-score game and that pick changes everything. They lost by 22.
Yeah. So are Andy Reid clock management memes back? It seems like
I
they
don't
were
know.
gone. Seems like they were
Yeah.
gone after a while.
Yeah, I mean it really seems that way. I mean that end of the second quarter was so bad.
Yeah, not great. Let's talk about the other side, though. Let's talk about Bruce Arians. I think Bruce Arians, he has to be probably a Hall of Famer now, right?
I mean, maybe he's won a Super Bowl, so he's finally got that off his his pole or whatever it's called. He's notched that off his pole is what I meant. Whatever the expression is, anyways. But Bruce Arians finally got that Super Bowl, so that was a big thing. And listen, I thought it was impressive that it was 3 straight weeks we thought there was a distinctive coaching advantage for the other team, and it was against Sean Payton, against Matt LaFleur, against Andy Reid. You think, oh, the coaches for the other team is a huge advantage. Bruce Arians does exactly what he needs to do. He goes for it on fourth down and is aggressive throughout the game. I thought he did everything right. I thought he pushed all the buttons that he needed to in this one.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, he's not a perfect coach. We all know that, but it's. I think it's cool to see. I think obviously, again, I'm biased. I know a lot of people don't like Bruce Arians. A lot of people do. But I just think it's cool. Out of all the criticism that was happened over the course of the season, to sort of overcome that, I'm trying to think what was the bigger obstacle overcame. I'm not sure that's the best way to phrase it. The last Patriots Super Bowl, most recent Patriots Super Bowl, or this Buccaneers Super Bowl, because both kind of started they're both very similar. Both teams ended up 11-5, kind of had a rough stretch and then won out the rest of the way. What would you say? You're a Patriots fan, and obviously you follow this team very closely. What would you say?
I thought this team was more talented than that team in 2000. What year is it now? 2018.
I think so.
I think this team was more talented, but I think a lot of the circumstances that went into the season made this a lot tougher. Because he's dealing with basically a whole new scheme for the first time in 20 years, which they adjusted, it seemed like midway through the season by throwing in more Brady-centric schemes too. So a whole new scheme for the first time in 20 years, a limited offseason, no preseason, a lot of time to adjust to a lot of these guys. I feel like this team honestly took like 10 weeks. One of the things I said at the beginning of the season after that week 1 loss to the Saints is like, I want to wait till like week 10 to see what this team is. Then I panicked a little after seeing them lose to the Saints and Chiefs again.
Right.
But then they really, it took 13 weeks for this team to figure out who they really are and figure things out. Once this team started to figure things out, it was really impressive. But yeah, I mean, it really took 13 weeks for this team to like get its footing. And even with 13 weeks, Brady still threw 46 touchdowns in the regular season.
Yeah, and you don't have to be the best team in October. You got to be the best team in February, and that's really what came down to. I want to talk about another guy now, Jason Licht, the general manager for Tampa Bay. I'm not sure how well known this is among everybody. He was someone who he had been with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 5 years and wasn't spectacular. Had never made the playoffs. The record wasn't great. He had his moments where he was really good, obviously getting Godwin, and I believe the third round was good. He's had a history of hitting on guys late in the draft. Also, the Jameis Winston thing was understandable, but didn't work out. Roberto Agoyo, that draft decision wasn't great. And when Dirk Cutter got fired, many felt like Licht should have gotten fired with him. And it seemed like a big reason why Licht stayed on was because Licht had an in with Bruce Arians, and they wanted Bruce Arians as a coach. 2 years later, Jason Licht is a Super Bowl champion. Talk about going from nearly done being a general manager to the top of the mountain. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean it's really impressive. I am kind of interested to see what the next 5 years looks like because I did feel like if we look back a few years ago, we gave John Elway a lot of credit for building that Broncos team. But it's also a lot easier to win a Super Bowl when you have Peyton Manning. So it'll be interesting to see what the next few years look like for Licht. But, it was a great job. I think a lot of people try and give Brady a lot of credit for this kind of stuff. But he still has to pitch a lot of these guys coming to this team. He still has to draft guys like Devin White and, say this is the good scheme fit for us. So I think he deserves a lot of credit himself.
Yeah, not to mention, Anton Winfield and Tristan Wirfs, they don't win the Super Bowl without those two guys. Well, maybe they do, but it would have been a lot more difficult to get here without those two guys. And let's talk. I saw this in a tweet. So 5 guys, everyone who scored a point for the Buccaneers tonight wasn't on the team 11 months ago. That's Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette, Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, and Ryan Suckup. We'll start with Ryan Suckup. I mean, that's a good example of. I don't know why I'm starting with him. What am I doing? I'm a horrible host. Starting with the kicker. They just drafted Matt Gay the last year, and he was okay. Like, he wasn't terrible. They move on from him for Ryan Suckup, and he ends up being this great kicker. Again, why did I start with that? Terrible job. How about Tom Brady? How about that guy? Everyone keeps talking about, like you said, it's a lot easier to win a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. I think people are kind of diminishing it a little bit by saying, well, Brady just came here, but only 2 teams offered a contract to Brady. It was the Chargers and the Bucs. So it's not like everyone was saying, oh, yeah, whoever gets Brady is going to win the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers weren't spectacular last year in New England. I mean, they were fine. They were good, but they weren't spectacular. And then all of a sudden he comes in here and puts up huge numbers again. I understand this team has a lot of talent, but yeah, I mean, they really built the team around him and that just made smart move after smart move. And, getting a guy like Tristan Wirfs, 2 in the first round. I mean, those first 2 round picks for the Buccaneers, that's a huge draft. Getting Wirfs and Winfield in the first 2 rounds, 2 major impact players. We talked about the offensive line performance at Tampa Bay. Antoine Winfield at the back made big play after big play and got the pick. I mean, he was huge in this one too. So drafting those kind of guys and, it was a huge thing to be able to get those guys and build this team around a player with Brady's skill set.
This is a fantastic fun fact. Jameis Winston threw more touchdowns against the Bucs than Patrick Mahomes this postseason.
Oh man, I feel like Jameis Winston somehow makes it into every one of our shows.
Largely because I host our shows. I think that's why.
Yeah, I mean it was such a good game plan, man. I can't get over how good they were on defense today.
Let's talk about legacy a bit. This was talked about as, the new GOAT and the old GOAT. It does feel like even if Mahomes ends up winning like 5 Super Bowls, this one kind of, it does feel like it was already going to be nearly impossible for Mahomes to catch Brady, but this kind of feels like the Bucs just slammed the door on that for Mahomes and the Chiefs.
I mean, it's hard to win a Super Bowl. I mean, this gets back to my conversation of this game was so important, I feel like, for the rest of non-quarterbacks in the NFL. I feel like we were ready just to anoint the Chiefs because they have Mahomes for the next 10 years, which guess what? It's going to be even harder to win Super Bowls over the next 10 years when your quarterback's making $50 million a year as opposed to the contract he's on now, which is the rookie contract. And they got to start paying more guys and trying to fill out this cap space while having that huge cap hit by their quarterback. So it's hard to win Super Bowls, and it's going to get harder for them, which I think is really hard in the first place. And then the second part of that is we say things like, oh, this is the next dynasty. They're going to beat them. Mahomes is going to be the GOAT. You're not even sure if he's going to play 21 years anyways. He takes a lot more hits than Brady does already in his career. He's battled with injuries each of the last 2 years. There's no guarantee he's going to be around 21 years from now to have this kind of longevity and to win 7 Super Bowls.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it seems nearly impossible, but I also feel like it would have been kind of possible if he won this one and it was 6-4 or 6-2. I mean, that makes it feel a little bit conceivable.
I mean, it would have been conceivable, but it's still really hard to win 4 more Super Bowls.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm not saying it would have happened. I'm just saying this does still feel like there was a long shot and now it's no shot. I feel like not no shot, but basically no shot.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. I'm interested to see how I think this team's obviously going to bounce back next season. I'm interested to see how this Chiefs team develops over the next 10 years of this Mahomes contract, because not only is this team going to have to start paying players, how long is Reed going to stick around with this team? He's not getting any younger. So how does this next 10 years play out for Mahomes?
It's going to be really interesting. Yeah, I think there's been some talk about maybe, you could see Eric Bieniemy end up being the head coach after Andy Reid. But yeah, the future is still bright for Kansas City, but this still is kind of a missed opportunity here.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, I criticize a lot of their decision making in this game, and it feel like they didn't show up to play. But yeah, I mean, you look at the other sides, it's pretty big. It doesn't change much as far as Brady's GOAT talk, other than, like you said, it might shut the door a little bit more on Mahomes stepping through. But I mean, he just proved that once again, you don't have to be amazing to be the best quarterback ever. It's kind of just about, let me just make the right plays and make my guys successful and make this team successful. He turned this team around from 7-9 to a Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he's the greatest of all time right now, but this makes it even more difficult for someone in the future to catch him, really, is what he's going up against the future, LeBron James to his Jordan eventually.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have some random kid from like 25 years from now, all of his fans who are like 12-year-olds will be saying he's the GOAT. And I'll have to remind kids that Tom Brady was around back in my day. No, so it'll be fun. But yeah, I mean, just an incredible career now. All 21 years now, 7 Super Bowls. A third of his years ended with the Super Bowl winning season. I had somebody ask me if this was his most talented team ever that won a Super Bowl.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, you would probably be better suited for that than I was, because I'm not too familiar with the early Patriots seasons as much as you are, but it feels like it could be up there.
I think it's a debate, especially just pure talent. I think I would still probably take the 04 team. I think that's the best Patriots team ever. Even better than the 07 team. They battled with a ton of injuries, and that's why they lost 2 games. But the 04 team, when healthy, the defense was Ty Law, Asante Samuel, Antrell Roll, Rodney Harrison, Brewski, Vrabel, McGinnis at linebacker, Richard Seymour, Vince Wilfork, Ted Johnson on the defensive line, and had Deion Branch, David Givens, Ben Watson, all these guys in the offensive side. 2004 Patriots, I still feel like is the best team in Patriots history, and I feel like it's more talented than this team. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a genuine debate over some of those. If you look at the team that beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl, I think it's a real debate between those 2 teams.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bucs didn't play their best football, and part of what Vita Vea only played a handful of games this season too, so that helped. So hard to really say exactly. I think that they still lost 5 games this season, which seems crazy with how well they're playing now. Here's a good one: chances of a Brady repeat, in y'all's opinion. Is there? So again, getting a bit ahead of ourselves already. The Bucs just won a Super Bowl, but what are the odds that we could be a year from? Honestly, I don't think it's out of the question that we could see these 2 teams in the Super Bowl again next year.
Are there any big contract names with Tampa Bay? You'd probably know this better than I do. Is there any?
A little. Levante David is the big one. Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. So it looks like, they might end up losing one of those guys. They'll probably end up keeping a couple. They have the cap space to kind of get it. And unless David's just going to go for, I could see Levante David saying, hey, I gave you guys a decade. I won a Super Bowl. I'm going to, set myself up for my retirement now and get a big contract. And I think that would be reasonable. So maybe that. Seems like Godwin's staying either way. There was a report came out that they're probably going to make a deal done. Antonio Brown probably only stays if, takes a discount. So a little bit. It seems like they could take a step back. And, Brady's getting older. I know he's only going to be 44 next year, but, maybe that will be too much. But it's possible.
I mean, I'm just not going to doubt it until I see it at this point.
Yeah.
We haven't seen any. I mean, we've seen slight declines in his game, but he's still great. He's still a great player. And, I think the big thing, you listed a few of those guys, Godwin and Brown on offense would hurt, and David is huge on the defense. But a lot of the core guys on this team are still there. I think I honestly feel like even if they brought David back, and I still feel like Godwin and Brown are sort of replaceable. I don't want to say they're replaceable because that feels disrespectful, but you can get a replacement level guy to fill in that spot and have similar production. You still have a core amount of the guys in. You get guys too like OJ Howard back, who looked really good with Brady at the beginning of the year. He's going to be back healthy. So, I mean, I wouldn't say no to it. I think that it can get back.
Yeah. Also, I forgot about Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett also. So, but they do have some cap space as well, and they have the franchise tag they can work with. So they'll probably lose a little bit. I don't think they're not going to lose all those guys though.
Yeah, I think they'll bring a few guys back. It'll be interesting to see how many guys they have at this by the end or by the beginning of the season, and they got to draft well again too. That was a big thing with this year. Continue to draft well to replace guys eventually.
Yeah, that's what it always seems to come down to, right? Just draft well.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just the draft is so important, especially those first 2 round picks for immediate impact players. Getting guys out of those 2 rounds is huge.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Do you have? So we're 50 minutes in here on this one. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? We could also anything else about this game you want to talk about? We could also spend a minute on the, the awards show that happened the night before.
Did you win any money today? I was going to ask.
Oh, I a little bit. So I had both Brady and Gronkowski the over. Brady missed it by like 2 yards, devastating. Yeah. The coin toss, I lost it, which is just the worst when you lose the coin toss live because you're expecting it. Was there a Gatorade shower? I didn't see it.
I didn't see the Gatorade shower. I don't know if anybody had that.
Well, I hit no on the will there be a Gatorade shower before the final whistle, so got some money there.
There you go. I had
the under, so.
Yeah, I had the Rob Gronkowski yard ones and Rob Gronkowski touchdown.
Okay.
And I had Buccaneers money line. I had Buccaneers under. I had national anthem over.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a pretty good day. I had Kelsey over too, so I had a pretty good day.
Okay, people are saying there was blue Gatorade. Was it before or after the whistle? I need to know this.
Uh-oh. Well, we'll get IT on that one, and
yeah.
So exactly. My point was I had a big day, so I'm awesome.
Okay, good. Godfrey, I like how you asked me the question, really, just so you could brag about yourself.
Yeah, basically, I want to say that I won money.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, and I mean, I guess I think we're probably both in agreement. Seemed like Brady winning Super Bowl MVP feels about right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. Unless you're gonna, cut it into the 11 pieces for all those defensive players,
right?
It's kind of just always going to go to the quarterback.
Yeah, really, for a defensive player to win, it has to be like a Von Miller, where it's like so obvious. Like, you have like a big stat line. You need the stat line along with playing great, and I didn't think anybody really had that.
I mean, which is what Shaq Barrett, the one guy you probably talk about.
Yeah, but it's like, can you really say? I mean, like he was good, but he wasn't like he didn't like take over the game.
Yeah, I mean that's true. No,
I mean no, he was really good, but like there was like but it's like if you want to give him credit, like you have to also have to give Pierre Paul credit, and again the stat line. I'm trying to look. I believe he had 1 sack, so and actually only 1 tackle. That was his only tackle of the game. Obviously that's very misleading. He had like you said 8 pressures, so he was all over the place there. But like you're gonna have to have like 3 sacks or like an interception or a fumble or a touchdown or something to get defensive. Win a Super Bowl MVP as a defensive player.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's fair. Offensively, there's conversations for Gronk and Lenny, but at the same time, it wasn't like their stats were wild enough to warrant it.
Yeah. I think I agree. All right. You want to talk? I mean, I guess the one thing I was interested in hearing your thoughts on, so we'll be done with I guess let's talk about speaking of misleading stats, Kyle, this is the final score from our thing. It's interesting, right? Because if I picked the Chiefs, if I picked the Chiefs in the preview show, I would have lost and you would have won.
Yeah, it was okay. I was expecting it to happen. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good run. It was close. So until the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. It was what tied 2 weeks ago, and then I win by 60.
Yeah, I whiffed a ton of the games from basically the divisional round on. So,
we have a question from the great Luke G's field review. Why is no one blaming Mahomes for this loss? I gave him some criticism. I don't think he deserves the full blame, but yeah, I gave him criticism.
I mean, he deserves some criticism. I think. I think the gameplay was the bigger problem here, and the lack of adjustments with it.
Yeah, it is probably fair though that like I think there is kind of a fair point of. Like if Brady played this poorly, I don't think he's getting the same benefit of the doubt that Mahomes got.
That's probably fair. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I think the problem is that there's so many plays where it looked bad because Mahomes is running for his life, 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. And also, I mean, we can't really tell how bad it was until we get to all 22 and see what was open down. We're assuming nothing was open downfield. If we watch the all 22 and see, there was guys running free all game, well then, our opinions will will change. So yeah, I guess the one thing I want to talk about before we sign off, Aaron Donald wins Defensive Player of the Year. I thought it was the right call. I'm not sure what you thought about it. A lot of people thought that TJ Watt. Did you have any opinions on that?
I mean, I thought it was a fine call. I mean, I thought Aaron Donald was the most important player for the. I thought Aaron Donald was the most important player for the best defense in football. So I give him a lot of credit for that. I know a lot of the traditional stats because I saw every Steelers fan in the nation put it up on social media that, TJ Watt had a distinct advantage in all the stats. But I thought Aaron Donald was the most impactful and the most important player for the best defense in football. And I feel like that means something. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I agree. And everything else was pretty much. I mean, the one other crazy thing, Patrick Queen, 2 Defensive Rookie of the Year votes. Antoine Winfield, 1 vote. What the hell are these guys watching?
Listen, I like a lot of Jeremy Chin's game. I thought Queen. Yeah. I think Queen has a good future.
Yeah, but he wasn't good this year. Like I agree. It's like his potential was great, but like he was not. Pro Football Focus had him as the second worst linebacker, just period.
Yeah. I mean, Antoine Winfield I thought was the best defensive rookie this year, and he finished 4th, not even close to Chase Young.
Incredible. I knew Young was going to win it. Also, we have a super chat from Simon. Kyle, why don't you read that one?
Thank you for knocking the Queefdom off their pedestal. Mad respect for you since I'm a Raiders fan.
Yeah, well,
I don't even know what that means, but okay. I guess. I guess he's not a fan of the Chiefs. So
yes, that's what that is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And to answer the question below it, yes, this is Shiner. I'm in Texas, so I gotta support those good old Texan brands.
Yeah, I guess one more thing before we go. I was gonna end the show like 6 times already, but I keep thinking of more things. How are you feeling about this? You're a Brady fan, obviously. You're a Patriots fan. What's the feeling like as for Patriots fans in this situation?
I think there's 2 different demographics. There's the Patriots fans who are over 30, who suffered a lot before Brady and are kind of like back to the, well, screw him, we'll be fine without him sort of thing. That's a Boston fan. And then there's the Brady fans who are basically under 30, who have basically spent their entire life rooting for Brady, who are basically like, I can't not root for Tom Brady. He's our quarterback. He was our guy for so many years. I understood a lot of why he wanted to leave, and I understood a lot of why Belichick wanted to move on and start over from a lot of it. I don't think this is a Jerry Krause situation wanting to rebuild after the Bulls win the 98 title. Belichick saw a lot of the tea leaves, I felt like, with this situation and said, hey, we have a lot of problems on this roster. A 42-year-old quarterback isn't going to change a lot of those problems on this roster. And I don't blame Brady for wanting to leave and have his own situation that's better for it. So I'm not really mad of either situation. It stinks that he wins it with another team, but, at the same time, after that stupid golf tournament, I was like, I'm never going to not root for Tom Brady. I'm always going to root for the guy. He's been my team. He's been my guy for a while.
Yeah, I get that. It's such a weird. There's no other situation that's ever happened like that. It's crazy. I also like Tom Brady.
Yeah, is Brady the best Tampa Bay quarterback ever now?
Well, let's not throw disrespect onto the great Josh Freeman.
I mean, Freeman did have that year. He almost won MVP.
Yeah. Homeboy played extremely well, and I think he deserves super credit, especially after his back-to-back plays. But that's just kill the GOAT convo. Well, people will find someone. Who's the new GOAT? Who's the new? Maybe throw someone else in.
Trevor Lawrence before he even takes a snap.
Yeah, one game in. I think he's the best I've ever seen. I think Brady didn't play that well in his first game.
Yeah,
they'll use Brady's 2001 stats against Lawrence's 2021 stats. Those are my favorite.
Exactly. I know the Mahomes conversations with that. There's going to be conversations about it forever. It's a fun talking point for everybody, and it's easy for anybody to bring up the conversation. It's just always going to be Brady for me.
Yeah. Is there, I'm thinking about this. I hate that I'm kind of feel this way a little bit because it's such a hot take. But could you make an argument that I feel like in a little bit we might look back at this some 30 years ago and people will kind of feel like, Brady won 7. If Belichick doesn't win another one, he won 6. It's a little bit like how you sort of did Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. Montana won 4. even the Niners won 5. Like, is there a little bit something there, or am I just completely crazy? Like, I think that, and I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying I thought people will say that.
I mean, people are already saying that they brought up the Brady and Belichick rankings basically forever, and who's more important to it. There's 20 years of history that these two are the best at what they do. It's not going to change over 1 or 2 years,
Yeah. Luke G says Belichick will win another one. So there you go. All right. I think that's our show.
With my team.
Yeah, there you go. Or maybe we'll come to Tampa Bay, win one with us.
Bruce Arians retiring, you get Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
I might be a little mad then.
Okay, gotcha, understood. All right, guys. Thank you for all of us for watching. Got over 700 people in the chat. Most we've had, or 700 people watching live. We appreciate that for sure. Thank you to everyone who's been with us the entire way. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going back to make more videos because I'm going to be up all night. So stay tuned if you're also going to be up all night, or watch them in the morning. But before I do that, Kyle, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter. That's at Jackson Kruger, at by Kyle Gronin. That's BY, and then the last name's GRONDIN, by Kyle Gronin on Twitter. And then follow us for the content page at On the Sideline JK, at On the Sideline JK on Twitter. We'll be updating our show, which we'll continue to do every Sunday for the off season. We are going to go down to once a week, though. We'll just do on Sundays. And like Jackson said, we started this up in March and got this podcast going off of his channel. Thank you for everybody who's listening and watching to help this grow. And it was a fun first year. Little did we know when we started this in March that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Tom Brady, would be winning the Super Bowl at the end of our first year. So thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed the season.
Yes, it's been quite the fun journey, and it's 1 year of hopefully many. Thanks to everyone again. We appreciate it. We'll see you 9:00 next week. Check in. Don't know what we're going to talk about yet. We might just do a bigger deep dive of this one, of this game, and maybe talk about some off-season stuff. But yeah, tune in then. We'll be going through the off-season once a week. We appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.